is 9:30. We are still in GOKWE and trying to figure out how we wound up in Oxford. And the writer of the book we're sharing with you this morning is in the building, Petronella Munhenzva. And we were about to talk about her dead one. Dr. Lawyer, unabo asichikaranga unopasa. Zokorodza zvese nemedzi dzodzo hauna chaunoita mberi kana usina shona nemashomo. Petronella, what do you think was the lesson in that from Dad?
I think the lesson was do what you're supposed to do. I think for him, how you figured it out, to call him directly, you say it's pride. Because you say you can't pass English language, pass English literature with A's and fail Shona. Do what you're supposed to get right. Get the basics right. So for him, I think he didn't want me to just fail and then move on as if nothing happened. He wanted to hold me accountable. He wanted me to get the basics right. And at the time, I was so angry. I remember I would read the books with an attitude. I would be angry. I would act out. I would be moody. And he would still persist. He would still insist. And then no matter how much he would act out, he would just ignore you. And I kept working and got it right. And it's something that now, even when I'm doing my job, and my manager says, Pet, you didn't get this right, repeat it. I don't take offense because I was taught how to hold myself accountable. So I think for him, it was that thing of keeping me grounded, holding me accountable. And at the moment, during the time, I didn't understand. But today, I look back and I'm grateful that he did that.
I actually love what you just said there. History, I see our own language, who we are atrocious. Now, 1 up to 21. Goodness me. Okay, got that. I also loved, reading the book, and I understand where you were going with it, the idea that, sometimes in life you give it your best and you surrender the rest to the universe, to God, to your higher power, whatever it is that you believe in, right? But I feel like sometimes society is also holding us back. I was reading your story. Vakaregedza kudzingirana nezvavaifunga kuti vaida kuita nekuti kwai mapoints akwani uku unenge wapasa anenge asiri mashomaka kutonhonga double digit waunganidza. But I feel like sometimes society is also to blame for people not being able to pursue their dreams.
Definitely. I think people have these set standards and expectations of what success is supposed to look like. And when you don't meet that criteria, when you don't do that, and I think for me, it started off me doing art subject, history, literature, and geography. It made my parents feel some type of way because my sister had done maths, biology, and chemistry, and it was clear the path that she was going to take. But for me, they didn't understand. So I chose to do these subjects that they didn't support to begin with, and then I don't do as well as they had hoped that I would do. So I'm now a double failure. So I think society is this thing of categorizing people. And when you start doing degrees, people call certain degrees useless degrees. They'll say, you know what, if you don't do accounts, if you don't do... I'm not throwing shade on anything, by the way. But then there's this whole notion that you have to have these hard skills that are defined, that a career path, you're going to do this. If you do degrees that sort of improve the softer skills, people tend to look at you funny.
Even music, performing arts.
I know.
Others would say.
Yes, because when I went to the UZ, I remember there's a chapter in the book called The Worst Degree, because the first degree that I did at UZ was BA. And I remember back then, people would call it being around. And people would joke around saying, if you want the pretty girls, you find them in the arts department and stuff like that. And
they weren't wrong.
I'll take that as a compliment. And I remember I went to church and this preacher was preaching and he said, you will see some parents throwing a party, slaughtering a whole cow because someone graduated with BA. What's that about?
No.
And I was studying it. I remember I literally just put my head down, cried, and went home. So that is what society does. They've attached success to certain degree programs. They have attached success to certain high school subject combinations. So if you deviate from that, and I think the first step to you becoming the person that you want is silencing out voices that don't agree with you. Don't ever give anyone the right to speak to you. One thing that I had to learn the hard way for is don't believe something that doesn't empower you. Because if you give people an opportunity, they will tell you exactly how silly your degree is. They will tell you how silly your combination is. And people are good at that.
Yeah.
And society is so good at that.
Yeah.
So I think you need to find a voice and courage within yourself and believe in God and work towards that on your own. Because if you give people a chance, they will literally... I saw this meme recently that said a Zimbabwean can kill your dreams by one question. So it's people have people have these expectations and standards, and it takes the courage that most people don't to push back. And that's why I wrote this book, because you can't push back. Imagine it's coming from your mom, from your sister, from your teachers.
That's it.
You can't push back.
It's 9:36 on Capitalk 100.4 FM Harare Zabe. And really something is bubbling inside of her that she had to share. And she did that in this inspirational book that she wrote, From GOKWE to Oxford. And it's nice to hear this. I don't even know where GOKWE is, but it's also nice who comes from the least unlikely places to hear your first flight. What was that like?
Ooh, you don't want to know.
Yeah.
I think the first flight is reached. The first time I came to Harare officially was because of school. So I had no idea. I had no idea what was going on.
Yeah.
I remember when I went my first flight, I had my water bottle, I had everything in my handbag. And they were like, no, you can't do that. And I had to repack. I didn't know. It was so amazing. And I think I put a picture in the book of the picture that's on my passport. And when they saw it, they looked at me and they're like, no.
I'll see where.
That's not you.
Actually going.
That's not you. It was an interesting experience.
Yeah.
I think there was this air of I didn't belong. There was this air of I should be here helping someone with their bags. I should be here helping someone to the airport. But by God's grace, it was me. And it was an amazing experience. I think coming to Harare and then let alone flying
was something else. Something that I love that you spoke about in the book is seeing failure as moments, because that's just what they are. Where we are seeing moments of failure as just something that's coming and going as part of the journey. It's a moment. It's not the defining experience of
that's true. I think one thing that my dad always says is you are not a failure. And I think it's a wonderful attitude to adopt, because failure, if you don't learn how to deal with failure well, you can't make it. Because we fail all the time. We fail in relationships, we fail in school, we fail literally. And I think you need to get to a point in your life where you fail and you realize that, you know what, this is just this moment of my life. The next stage of my life, I'm going to do better. I'm going to developing a healthier relationship with failure. One thing that I do is I love listening to people's stories. Like I think one of my gifts is I get inspired easily. I get inspiration from everywhere, and I constantly read things. And one thing that I read was the guy who designed the 7-Up drink. He got it wrong 6 times. When he got it correct the 7th time, that's why he called it 7-Up.
Oh wow!
So I'm like, you know what? It's sort of looking at the process and appreciating every stage and getting to a point where you don't only feel bad about your failure, and you don't allow people to make you feel bad about your failure. Because sometimes you will not go to the right. Unana tete, unana sisi who are telling you how much of a failure you are. And I think it's that thing of being kind to yourself, treating yourself with the kindness you would treat others. And you know what? I'm an amazing human being who just made this mistake.
I love that.
I'm going to keep going, pick myself up, and do better. And I think it starts with having compassion for yourself.
I love that. And as you're talking, but acceptance.
Yes.
Accepting that your journey is going to have high-flying moments, and sometimes
Yes.
you are experiencing the lowest of your lows, but still be able to, I love that. You said, look at yourself gracefully,
Yes.
with compassion,
Yes.
and not let that seem like zvinyadzi kuti and fange wakuinvesti zvinoitika ka unogona kufoira uri mufinal yeka woedzokorodza. You know the stories, and you beat yourself about it. And I think most times our pressure to succeed isn't really ours.
No,
it's everybody else's.
It is. I think one thing that I wrote it in the book is, before you decide to do anything, evaluate your motives. Why do you want to make it? Why do you want to be successful? Are you doing it because you want to, or are you doing it because your parents want you to? Are you doing it because your siblings want you to? Because if you're doing something for someone else, you don't sustain the passion to keep going. So if you're living your parents' dreams, one thing about African parents is they want to live their failed dreams through their children.
Right.
So if they wanted to be a doctor and they couldn't, and they give birth to you, you are going to be that doctor by fire, by thunder, because they wanted to do it.
Right.
So sometimes our parents, and they're not bad people, they just want to live their failed dreams through us.
Yeah.
And in moments like that, you need to actually be bold enough to say, you know what, I love you and I'm going to make you proud my way.
Right.
Because if you're living for a dream that's not yours, life gets hard. You get discouraged, you get beat down, you can't keep going if it's not for you. But if it's for you, you will get beat down and you wake up at 2 a.m. and still keep going because you want to.
Yeah, I get you.
So I think it's navigating it well. Whose dreams are you living for? Evaluate your motives. Why are you doing what you want to do? If you go deep down, you'll find an answer, and that answer can take you places.
It's 9:42 on Capitalk 100.4 FM. Harare's heartbeat. Turukuwereketa mangwanana na Petronella Munhenzva, and we're going through the book that she wrote us. It's such a pretty book. I think of all the books that I've gotten, I haven't gotten one that just feels like and and reading it, I was not disappointed. It is an inspirational book of hope and a glimmer of light for anyone who needs to believe that there truly is light at the end of the tunnel. And one of the themes in your book is about purpose. But maybe before we get there, you said, I struggle sometimes, I get overwhelmed, and I have to recharge by talking to people in my life who God has given me to hold my hand. You need those kind of people and friends as well. Where you feel like God has just placed them in your life to recharge. Because Petronella tinika kushoda kuti ndikaudza vanhu kuti ndiri kuzvikoniwa, I'm feeling lost, my marriage isn't working, my husband cheated, I just found out that my child is not mine. And still feel like they're God sent to help you recharge.
Okay. I would say that's a very hard question for Lake, because I think the fundamental nature of all of humanity is selfishness. And this is me included. I think there is that thing where we want to look out for our own interests. We want to do things for ourselves. But I think amidst all of that selfishness, amidst all of that, there are people that you have around you that are for you. And one way of finding those people is looking at how people react to your good news. So if something happens to me, something good, something that I'm proud of, and I come to you and I call you, for like, if this happened to me, I have to watch how you react. How do you react to my good news? How do you react to my bad news?
Right.
How do you speak to me? There are people that call themselves friends, but that give you underhanded compliments. So they'll be like, oh, Falaki, you're a good singer, but can you do a whole album? Oh, you pity you're a writer, but can you write a whole book? So there are people that give you underhanded compliments, and there are people that are weird. So I think the process is doing an audit of your life. Look at your friends, or the people that you call your friends. How do they react to your good news? How do they react to your bad news? Who has been with you when you had nothing to offer? Who stood by your side when you were downtrodden? Who stood by your side?
Yeah.
And who doesn't want your life? you can't be friends with people who want your life. You cannot be friends with people who think that they are smarter than you, who think that they deserve your job, who think that they deserve your relationship. You can't be friends with people who want your life and who compete with you. Yes. And the godora chorakadzidza, they don't do it to your face.
Right.
It's those hidden gems.
Got you. Underhandedness.
Underhandedness. So I think if you do that evaluation and that audit, people that are for you will stand out. I have friends for like that I would just call for 2 hours and complain about my troubles. They don't advise, they don't correct, they just support me in my nonsense. And when I've calmed down, they'll be like, but sister.
Bye.
So I think you need, and they could be siblings, they could be family, they could be friends. The key is just evaluate their motives for you.
Got you. It is Capitalk 100.4 FM, Harare's Heartbeat. From GOKWE to Oxford is the book that we are having our noses in, and we are sitting with the lovely writer. The author herself is in the building, and we are going through some of the interesting bits in the book. And I'm wondering if you are connecting in any way. Unawo here vanhu vakakomberedza vaunoti aiwa vafolake vanondibatsira kuti ndinotoita sefoni yabaiwa pamagetsi, and I feel recharged after you spend time with them, after you've gone with them with your challenges, and you're so convinced that this is what you wanted to do, but life is just not letting you have that. Well, this book is going to be for you. I want to go to chapter 9, the power of purpose and vision. All right, so I'm going to read an excerpt from that book as well. And I want to also encourage you to consider getting this book. All right, chapter 9, the power of purpose and vision. Discovering your purpose means discovering your uniqueness in a world where you can be anything. Be yourself. This is one of those topics that I believe really require a chapter of their own, and I hope you don't mind that I dedicated one to it. I'm going to start off by telling you the greatest gift you can give yourself is discovering your purpose. This sounds easy and straightforward, but I assure you with love that it isn't. It takes a lot of self-reflection, self-introspection, and the help of God. And I'm going to jump to page 181, and it says, if we are not careful, the need for material possessions, if we are not careful, will drive us out of the presence of God, because we will find our worth in these possessions, not in the identity that God has for us. Your identity and your purpose will guide you and lead you, which is why it is important to identify them. If you do not know who you are, any label can stick. Anyone can tell you who you are. Anyone take you anywhere. Miles Monroe said that the true success is fulfilling and completing your purpose. Your purpose will determine your hobbies, it will determine your friends, and it will determine how you spend your free time, what you watch, and accordingly, what you don't watch. Your purpose will determine the music that you listen to, the food that you eat, the books that you read, and those that you don't read, the people that you hang out with, and those that you don't. Discovering your purpose sets you on a path where you can't be stopped, because you will not stop until you get it. Discovering your purpose means discovering your uniqueness. In a world where you can be anything, be yourself. Unapologetically, because you cannot find who you are, you will lose. You cannot fight who you are, you will lose. The same boiling water that softens the potato hardens the egg. You might have grown in the same neighborhood with them, gone to the same school, or even got the same results at some point in your life. That doesn't mean that your destination will be the same. The world stands aside to let anyone pass who knows where he is going. David Starr Johnson. The greatest challenge, therefore, is figuring out where that is. Wow. And truly, that is one of life's biggest challenges, isn't it? Figuring out your purpose. So how did you figure out your purpose, do you think?
I think there are 3 easy ways of discovering your purpose. Not particularly easy, but there are 3 ways. The first one is pay attention to the things that you do naturally. What comes to you naturally? Can you sing easily? Can you write easily? Can you dance easily? Can you speak to people easily? Whatever it is that you can do easily and naturally is the first indicator of what your purpose is. And the second one is pay attention to what people compliment about you. I don't know if you've heard of the Jurel window. It sort of like shows you full sort of there are things that people that are close to you and even strangers that can see about you that you don't know about yourself. There are things that my sister knows about me that I haven't known, that I don't know about myself. Right. So usually people will compliment you on things that you're good at. So pay attention at what people compliment you the most. I remember growing up, my father is a pastor. I'm a pastor's kid. Growing up, I liked speaking in church. I was active. I would preach in Sunday school. I would recite memory verses from head. And people would be like, this one, she's going to be a preacher someday. She's going to be this someday. And with age, I've realized that I talk naturally. I write naturally, and it sort of catapulted into the career that I have right now. So the second one is pay attention to what people compliment the most about you. And the third one is pay attention to what makes you angry or happy the most. And for this one, I'll give you a biblical analogy. If you read in the Bible in the book of Exodus, when Moses saw this Egyptian beating this Israelite, he was so angry at the sight of injustice that he beat that Egyptian up and he killed him and buried him in the sand. I'm not advocating for murder. But the thing is, he stood in front of injustice and something in him just couldn't sit right. And later on, he became a deliverer. He delivered the children of Israel out of that place. So when you look at the world, what makes you angry? What do you want to change? I am passionate about people going to school. I believe in entrepreneurship. I believe in all that. But in and there are people who grew up where I grew up who would never have money to start a business and capital. Right. What they only have is books. So pay attention to the things that make you angry or that make you happy the most. What steers you? So if you follow the things that you do naturally, if you pay attention to the things that people compliment about you, and if you follow what makes you angry or happy the most, it's an indication to what your purpose in life is. And this is the process that you have to punctuate with reading, with listening to lectures, sermons, books, whatever that works for you. And you have to intentionally grow. And that way you get to a place where you'll be like, this is what God created me to be. Because I truly believe that all of us were created for something, for a problem that we can fix. Maybe it's for one person, maybe it's for two people, maybe it's for the world. Whoever it is for, God gave you that gift.
I love that. Wow. So I'm going to read one more bit from the book, but so to somebody who's listening in, and we would love them to be able to read and I can't even call them nuggets, because this is like a power-packed book with so many interesting insights. A mirror. I think every page feels like a mirror for you to look at yourself and to reflect yourself. Petronella, where can we get a copy of the book?
If you're in Harare, you can get it from Innovate Bookshop in town. Or alternatively, is it okay if I give my sister's number at the end?
Yes, you can.
And then she can get a copy to you anywhere in Harare. She sells different products, so she can have a copy delivered to you.
Okay. So, all right. So I'm just going to read the last bit of our book, From GOKWE to Oxford, The Girl Who Dared to Dream. And whatever situation you're in right now, and you know what your Oxford could look like and what you would like it to look like. All right. So I'm just going to read the last bit from Petronella's book that I'm sharing with you on Capitalk 100.4 FM. Harare is happy. All right, let's do this. Always remember that someone, this is page 220, always remember that someone, somewhere is depending on you to do what God has called you to do. Remembering this helps me wake up each day and keep fighting. I might be here now, but the more I go further, the harder the journey becomes. Sometimes I just want to give up and curl up into a ball. I go through phases that shake me and move me into self-doubt. And I am confronted by that little girl wearing green uniform back in Mbuzia. I face challenges that remind me of who I was and that make me question my ability to move forward. But despite all this, I have to continue fighting each day. Along the way, I have met people who have judged me because I am a woman. I have met some who have judged me based on preconceived assumptions of who they think I am. Some have judged me because of my skin color. Some have looked at me and decided not to like me. That is normal. We must not spend time focusing on so much that we lose on where we are going. Each day I wake up and I remind myself of who I am and where I am going. I constantly remind myself of where I want to go, and that gives me strength to dismiss people's attacks and judgments and confront my failures. The focus on where I want to go leads me to go forward each day as the road gets harder and harder, because my story is not finished yet. And I will not rest until it is. I wake up each day and fight and go on until I have reached the finish line. I will not die with the gifts that God deposited in my heart. I will not die with my potential. I will not die with my dreams. I refuse to do that, and I will not. You can make a similar decision today. Rise above the criticism, above the humiliation, above the doubt, above the weakness, and go forward. Be clear of where you want to go. Please, I cannot stress this enough. Habakkuk 2, verse 2-3 says, write the vision and make it plain upon tables, that he may run that readeth it. For the vision is yet for an appointed time, but at the end it shall speak and not lie, though it tarries. Wait for it, because it will surely come. It will not tarry. This scripture guided me to writing my vision down with full knowledge that it might take time, but I will get there one day. Without a vision, perseverance is hard because we don't have a motivation to go forward. If you are not clear on where you are going, any path can take you wherever it leads, and you will go with the wind, whichever direction it is going. You need to be steadfast in a vision and a plan, because that is what will give you the courage to block everything that is standing in your way and irrelevant to your destiny. There is this book series that I used to follow and read very keenly that changed my worldview, called There Is Room at the Top. Back then, I was just intrigued by the stories that I found in the book. Today, in retrospect, I am now more grateful for the title than the stories it told, because it is a statement of assurance. You know that there is still room for you up there. So I will stop there for today. But wow. Wow. Thank you so much, Petronella, for taking the time to be here. Please go right ahead and give us the number of your sister also, so that we can also continue to benefit from this.
Oh, thank you so much for